I used to think heartbreak was something you survived once and never had to endure again. But standing at the altar, staring into the eyes of the man I had loved and lost years ago, I realized life has a cruel sense of humor. The church was packed with whispers, silk gowns, and polished shoes. To everyone else, this was the perfect union, two powerful families sealing their fates together with a carefully arranged marriage. To me, it felt like being forced into a ghost story, one where the ghost was alive and breathing, standing just a few inches away in a suit that made my chest tighten. His name was Ethan Hayes, the boy who had once been my everything, then became the reason I packed my bags, shattered and hollow, leaving town without a goodbye. Now he was my groom. I should have laughed at the absurdity, but my hands trembled beneath the vows I never wanted to say. Ethan's gaze was steady, but I caught the flicker of something deeper: regret, or maybe just recognition of the knife he had left in my chest years ago. The truth was, this marriage had nothing to do with love. My family's company was on the verge of collapse, debts piling higher than the skyscrapers downtown. The Hayes family offered a lifeline merger through marriage, and I, the dutiful son, had been pushed into the role of sacrificial lamb. My father had called it an opportunity. My mother had dressed it up with words like stability and security. But no one cared about the ruins of my heart when they signed the contract. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that the man waiting for me at the altar was the reason I stopped believing in forever. When the priest asked us to exchange rings, my hand brushed Ethan's. His fingers lingered, deliberately, as if testing whether the spark still lived between us. Damn him, it did. My heart stuttered in my chest, betraying me. The ring slid onto my finger, heavy with promises I didn't believe in. Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile, practiced for the cameras but soft enough that I knew it wasn't just for them. I wanted to hate him. God, I had rehearsed the hate for years. But as his hand rested over mine, warm and steady, my body remembered the boy who had once kissed me under the bleachers, who had whispered forever like he meant it. The reception was a blur of champagne glasses, artificial laughter, and hollow congratulations. People toasted to us like we were a fairy tale. My parents looked proud, their relief evident. They had no idea the story they were celebrating was written in scars. Ethan leaned close during the first dance, his voice low enough for only me. "You look beautiful tonight," he said. I almost tripped over my own feet. Beautiful. As if he had the right to say that anymore. "Don't," I whispered back, forcing a smile for the watching crowd. "Don't pretend you care." His hand tightened around my waist, pulling me closer until our foreheads nearly touched. "I never stopped," he said simply, and the world tilted. Later that night, when the music faded and the guests were gone, we were left in a hotel suite far too luxurious for two people drowning in silence. I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights, while Ethan poured us drinks. "Why didn't you tell me?" I finally asked, my voice rough. "Why didn't you tell me it would be you?" He handed me the glass but didn't drink his own. "Would it have mattered?" "Yes," I snapped, the anger finally breaking free. "I would have run. I would have fought harder to get out of this. Anything but this joke of a marriage." Ethan's jaw tightened, his usually composed expression cracking for just a second. "And yet here we are," he said quietly. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was filled with all the words we hadn't said, all the memories we tried to bury. I remembered the night he broke meth phone call that never came, the promises left to rot. I remembered packing my life into a suitcase, leaving behind the boy who had once been my world. And now, here he was, standing in front of me again, older, sharper, but still carrying the same damn smile that haunted my dreams. We were supposed to sleep in the same bed. For appearances, for the sake of the marriage. But when I slid under the covers, I made sure to stay as far away as possible, clinging to the edge like it could save me. Ethan lay beside me, his presence overwhelming, his breath steady in the dark. "You think I wanted this?" he asked suddenly, voice raw in the quiet. I didn't answer, because I didn't trust myself. Because part of me wanted to believe him, and part of me wanted to scream. Instead, I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep, but every nerve in my body was awake, alive, aching with the proximity of the man I had sworn I'd never forgive. And still, some traitorous part of me whispered, what if? That was the cruelest part of all. Not the marriage, not the lies, not even the ghosts of the past. The cruelest part was that despite everything, despite the years and the pain and the betrayal, I still wanted him. And I hated myself for it. The morning after was worse than the wedding night. I woke to the sound of running water, the shower humming softly in the background. For a moment, disoriented and wrapped in silk sheets, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the wedding ring glinting on my finger, heavy as a shackle, and the memories slammed back into me like a wave. Ethan's suit jacket was draped neatly over the chair by the window, his tie discarded on the floor. His presence filled the suite even without him standing there. I sat up, dragging a hand over my face, telling myself this was temporary. A deal. A merger. A cage I had willingly stepped into. But then the bathroom door opened, steam curling out like a ghost, and Ethan stepped out with a towel around his waist, droplets of water running down his chest. My heart betrayed me again, lurching violently against my ribs. Morning, he said casually, as if this was normal, as if we were just another newlywed couple easing into routine. I forced my eyes away. Don't do that. He raised a brow. Do what? Act like this is real. His smirk was almost painful to look at. Maybe it could be. We went downstairs to breakfast together, smiling for the staff like puppets. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends who couldn't stop gushing about how lucky I was, how perfect Ethan looked. If only they knew. Ethan sat across from me, sipping coffee, his gaze annoyingly steady. We should talk about ground rules, he said. I set down my fork. Ground rules? You mean how to survive this without killing each other? Something like that. He leaned back, fingers tapping lightly against his cup. We have to look convincing. Dinners, events, charity galas, it's all part of the package. But I don't expect you to actually. He trailed off, eyes flicking to my lips before he looked away. You know, pretend in private. Good, I said sharply. Because the last thing I want is to relive old mistakes. His jaw clenched at that, but he didn't argue. Days turned into weeks. Everywhere we went, we were the picture-perfect couple. Ethan's hand on my back, his arm slipping around my waist, his smile flashing effortlessly for the cameras. People whispered about our chemistry, about how rare it was to see a marriage so full of passion from the start. If only they knew how carefully choreographed it was. Except, not all of it was fake. Sometimes, when no one was watching, his touch lingered longer than necessary. Sometimes, in the car on the way home from another endless dinner, I caught him staring at me with something raw in his eyes, something that made me want to scream. And sometimes, when I couldn't sleep, I lay awake remembering the way he had once kissed me, wondering if he thought about it too. It all came to a head one night after a particularly grueling gala. I had smiled until my cheeks hurt, drunk more champagne than I should have, and let Ethan pull me into his arms for a dance I hated every second of. When we got home, I ripped off my tie and threw it across the room. I can't keep doing this. Ethan shut the door quietly, his calmness infuriating. Doing what? Pretending. My voice cracked, anger spilling out like poison. Pretending that this is anything but a prison. Pretending that you didn't. I cut myself off, but it was too late. Didn't what? He pressed, stepping closer. Didn't ruin me. I spat, my chest heaving. You don't get to play the doting husband now. You don't get to act like you care when you're the reason I stopped believing in love in the first place. The silence that followed was brutal. Ethan's face tightened, his mask slipping. For once, he didn't have a smooth reply. Finally, he said, I never meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. Congratulations. You failed spectacularly. He didn't push me after that. For days, we lived like strangers sharing a house, going through the motions for appearances but barely speaking when the cameras were gone. It should have been a relief, but instead it felt like drowning. Then came the dinner at my parents' estate. My father toasted to our bright future. My mother beamed like a queen watching her empire grow, and Ethan played his role flawlessly. Everyone was convinced. But when I excused myself to the garden for air, Ethan followed. "You can't keep shutting me out like this," he said, his voice low but urgent. I turned to him, my heart pounding with anger and something else I didn't want to name. "Why not? You shut me out years ago." His eyes darkened. "Because if you just listen, no." I cut in sharply. "You don't get to rewrite history. You left me. You broke me. And now you want me to believe this marriage means something? It doesn't. It never will." For a moment, I thought he would lash out, argue, defend himself. Instead, he just looked at me with such quiet devastation that I had to look away. That night, I found myself staring at him while he slept, his face soft in the dim light. For the first time, I saw not the confident, untouchable man the world adored, but the boy I had once loved, the boy who used to whisper secrets into the dark. And I hated how much I still wanted to reach for him. The breaking point came a week later. I had been working late, trying to drown myself in company reports, when Ethan walked into my office. "We need to talk," he said firmly. I didn't look up. "I'm busy." He crossed the room and closed the laptop with a snap. "Too bad. You're going to hear me out whether you like it or not." I glared at him, but the determination in his eyes was unshakable. "You think I walked away from you because I didn't love you," he said. "But the truth is, I loved you so much it terrified me. I wasn't ready. I was a coward. And I will regret that for the rest of my life." My breath caught, but I forced my voice to stay steady. "That's supposed to make me forgive you?" "No," he said softly. "It's supposed to make you understand that I never stopped loving you. Not then. Not now. Not ever." The words shattered something inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But most of all, I wanted to believe him. And that terrified me more than anything. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake replaying his words, torn between the ache of old wounds and the dangerous spark of hope. Because maybe, just maybe, the prison we were trapped in wasn't as unbreakable as I thought. Maybe the walls were already starting to crack. The weeks that followed were a blur of tension so thick I could barely breathe. Ethan's confession had lodged itself under my skin like a splinter I couldn't dig out. Every time he looked at me, every time his hand brushed mine in public, every time I caught him studying me with that quiet, unshakable longing, I felt it. That damn splinter. And worse, I felt myself wanting to believe him. But trust wasn't something you handed back like a borrowed coat. Trust was earned, and Ethan had shattered it once before. Still, I couldn't ignore the way my body betrayed me whenever he was near. The way my heart stuttered when he leaned in too close. The way old memories clawed their way back at night. Memories of stolen kisses in high school hallways, of whispered promises in the dark, of him telling me I was his forever. Forever. What a lie that had turned out to be. One evening, we attended a charity auction in New York. It was one of those events where the air smelled like money and perfume, where people smiled with their teeth but not their eyes. Ethan and I played our roles flawlessly, laughing at the right moments, clinking champagne glasses, posing for the endless flashes of cameras. But then I noticed him, Daniel. My ex, the one I had dated briefly after Ethan, the one I had tried to use as a bandage for a wound that never healed. He stood across the room, looking at me with a smirk that screamed he knew too much. Well, Daniel drawled as he approached, ignoring Ethan entirely. "I never thought I'd see the day you'd get married, and to him of all people." I stiffened. "Daniel." Ethan's arm slid possessively around my waist, his expression cold and unreadable. "Is there a problem here?" Daniel smirked, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "No problem, just surprised. After all, I remember how badly he cried the last time you broke his heart." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he pulled me closer, his hand steady on my hip. "Some people don't know when to stay in the past," he said evenly. Daniel chuckled and walked away, but his words lingered like poison. That night, in the car, Ethan was quiet. Too quiet. Finally, he said, "Was he telling the truth?" I turned to him, my voice sharp. Does it matter? His grip tightened on the steering wheel. It matters to me. Yes, I snapped. Yes, I tried to move on. Yes, I was with him. But it never worked because I bit my tongue before I could finish. Ethan's gaze flicked to me, his voice low. Because what? I swallowed hard, staring out the window. Because he wasn't you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan's hand twitched on the gearshift, like he wanted to reach for me but didn't dare. Later that night, when we were back in our penthouse, I found myself pacing. The walls felt too tight, the air too heavy. I needed to get it out, all of it, or I was going to drown. You want to know why it still hurts? I demanded suddenly, turning on him. Because you didn't just break my heart, Ethan. You made me believe we had a future. You made me believe I was worth fighting for. And then you disappeared. No explanation. No closure. Just silence. Ethan's face crumpled, the mask slipping. I was scared, he admitted, his voice rough. I was 18 and terrified. My father had just found out about us, and he threatened to destroy everything: my education, my future, even my family's reputation. I thought leaving was the only way to protect you. Protect me? I laughed bitterly, tears burning my eyes. You didn't protect me. You abandoned me. Do you have any idea what that did to me? His eyes glistened. Every damn day, I regret it. Every damn day, I think about what I lost. About you. About us. And now, by some cruel twist of fate, we're here again. Don't you see? This is our second chance. I shook my head, anger and longing warring inside me. You don't get to call it that. You don't get to decide that this I gestured between us is some gift from the universe. Then what do you want from me? He asked desperately. Tell me and I'll give it to you. Just don't shut me out again. My throat closed. I wanted to say I wanted nothing, that I wanted him gone. But the truth lodged itself stubbornly in my chest. I still wanted him. Even after everything, I still wanted him. And that terrified me. The turning point came unexpectedly. We were scheduled to attend a business dinner with my father and several investors. It was supposed to be routine, more staged smiles, more false intimacy. But halfway through the evening, one of the investors, an older man with wandering eyes, leaned too close to me, his hand brushing my thigh under the table. I froze, bile rising in my throat. Before I could react, Ethan's hand slammed down on the table, rattling the glasses. His eyes blazed as he snarled, "Keep your hands off him." The room went silent. My father looked horrified, the investors stunned. The man stammered an apology, but Ethan didn't back down until the tension grew unbearable. Later, in the car, I stared at him. "You didn't have to do that," I said softly. His jaw was tight, his knuckles white. The hell I didn't. For the first time, I believed him. I believed his anger, his protectiveness, his desperation. It wasn't an act. Not for the cameras, not for appearances. It was real. And against my better judgment, something inside me began to crack. That night, when we returned home, I couldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, but from the realization that maybe, just maybe, Ethan wasn't the same boy who had left me years ago. Maybe he had changed. He reached for me, hesitated, then pulled his hand back. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I didn't mean to cause a scene." I looked at him, really looked at him, the tension in his shoulders, the guilt in his eyes, the way he seemed afraid I might vanish if he touched me. Before I could second-guess myself, I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. "You drive me insane," I whispered. "I hate you for leaving me. I hate that you think sorry is enough. But I hate even more that I still," my voice cracked, "I still love you." Ethan's breath caught, and then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was years of regret and longing and unspoken words crashing together. My hands fisted in his shirt, his arms crushed me to him, and for the first time since that night under the bleachers all those years ago, I let myself believe. Maybe this wasn't just a prison. Maybe it could be something else. Something real. I woke up the next morning tangled in Ethan's arms, his breath warm against the back of my neck. For a second, I didn't move. For a second, I let myself believe this was simple, that I could wake up like this every day without the shadow of our past hanging over us. But reality crept in like a cold draft. Love didn't erase history. It didn't erase betrayal. And it sure as hell didn't erase the fact that our marriage had started as a business transaction. When I shifted, Ethan stirred. "Morning," he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Morning." He tightened his hold on me, as if afraid I might slip away. "I don't regret last night," he said softly. I closed my eyes. Neither did I, and that was the problem. Over the next few weeks, something between us shifted. We still played the part of the perfect couple in public, but behind closed doors the lines blurred. His hand lingered longer on mine. My laughter came easier when he teased me. We fought less, talked more. And sometimes, when the world was quiet, we found our way back into each other's arms like gravity refused to let us drift apart. But just as I started to believe maybe, just maybe, we had a chance, the past came back with a vengeance. It started with whispers in the business press. Rumors that our marriage was a sham, that it was orchestrated for financial gain. Then photos surfaced, grainy shots of me with Daniel, taken years ago, twisted into a narrative that I had been unfaithful to Ethan. The tabloids ate it up. Investors panicked. My father exploded. And Ethan went silent. I confronted him in his office, slamming the newspaper down on his desk. "Say something." He looked up, his eyes tired, his jaw tight. "What do you want me to say?" "That you believe me," I snapped. "That you know it's a lie." His silence cut deeper than any accusation. I felt my chest cave in. "You don't, do you? You still don't trust me." He stood suddenly, coming around the desk, his hands gripping my shoulders. "It's not about trust. It's about the fact that the world is always going to twist things, always going to dig at us. And I don't know if I can keep watching them hurt you because of me." My throat burned. "So what, you're going to walk away again? Like you did before?" His grip faltered. That was all the answer I needed. I packed my bags that night, not with the same heartbreak as years ago, but with a cold clarity. I couldn't keep bleeding for someone who wasn't willing to fight for me. When Ethan came home and saw the suitcase by the door, his face went pale. "No, don't do this." "I have to," I said, my voice trembling. "I can't survive another abandonment. If you can't stand with me now, then we're done." He reached for me, desperation in his eyes. "Please, don't go." I shook my head, tears spilling over. "Goodbye, Ethan." And this time I was the one who left. Days passed. I stayed in a small apartment across town, away from the cameras, away from the noise, away from him. I threw myself into work, into silence, into anything that wasn't the aching emptiness in my chest. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't erase him. His touch lingered, his words echoed, his absence screamed louder than any presence ever could. Then one night there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, rain-soaked, eyes wild with something I hadn't seen in years. Fear. Not fear of scandal, not fear of his family, but fear of losing me. "I can't do it," he said, breathless. "I can't let you go again." I stood frozen, heart hammering. He stepped closer, his hands shaking as they reached for mine. "I was a coward before. I let fear control me. But not this time. Not again. I don't care about the rumors, the investors, the contracts. I only care about you. If you walk away now, I'll follow you. If you push me away, I'll wait. But I am done pretending I can live without you." Tears blurred my vision. "Ethan." His voice broke. "Please, give me one more chance. Not for the deal. Not for our families. For us." And in that moment, the anger, the pain, the betrayal, it was still there, but it wasn't stronger than the love that had survived everything. I let out a shaky laugh, tears falling freely. "You're an idiot." He grinned through his own tears. "You're idiot." When he kissed me, it wasn't desperate or furious. It was gentle, certain, like a vow. Months later, the rumors had faded, the business stabilized, the world moved on. But for us, everything had changed. We no longer lived in a cage of pretense. Our marriage wasn't a contract anymore. It was a choice. Every day, a choice to stay, to fight, to forgive. Some nights, when we lay tangled in bed, Ethan would whisper, "I don't deserve you." And I would whisper back, "Maybe not, but you're mine anyway." Because love wasn't about perfection. It was about surviving the storms, about finding your way back even when the path was broken. And against all odds, we had found our way back. Together, forever this time. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.